So just know that, please. Is it recording?
So no mooning the camera at this point,
I
Deborah.
want to hold off on that. A little self-control would be great.
You know, it's hard. It's very hard.
Okay, we'll go over the finance report. Allison has a lot to share with us about fall programming and give us an update. Hopefully you had a chance to look at Sophie Blackall's video. I thought it was awesome. She is so full of energy, good stuff. Jan will talk some about the strategic plan and give us an update, and we'll have a short executive session and then we'll adjourn. Jan, before you arrive, Gigi just let us know she needs to scoot out at 10 minutes to 5. We know that Anne is traveling, and we have some exciting news to share with everybody. Jan let me know that Charlotte Judith Mace was born this morning at 6:48 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
So we are so excited for Taylor. Yes. And
That's
Jan, we assume everybody is well. They're all doing good. I don't think you have any more information though for us, do you?
We don't as of yet, but obviously a very happy day.
Yes. All right. That's the way to start a meeting.
That's right.
So we have the meeting minutes from Thursday, August 13th. And that does seem so long ago. I don't know how you feel about it, but wow. And hopefully you've looked those over. I have them up here if you need me to scroll. But we can go ahead and take a moment if you'd like, or a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Okay, and a second on that?
Second.
Thanks, Allison. And any discussion on the minutes? All right. So all in favor of approval?
Aye.
Hi.
Hi.
Aye.
All right, Jen is doing her best to take notes for us and Taylor's absent. So I think that was everybody, Jen.
Yeah. Yeah, if I'm looking down, it's because I'm taking notes.
Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda is this diversity, equity, and inclusion statement. And just to sort of trail back on this, Jen and Rachel, please pipe up if I don't get this right, but I believe you had worked a little bit with Jan with the staff. And this was also a result of another meeting post that meeting. And Jan, I believe that this was a statement that really you could rest your hat on, that everybody felt comfortable with in the organization. Is that pretty much accurate?
Yes, I mean, we had a couple of different sessions at the staff meeting talking about this, and Rachel joined us for one of those discussions. And then we sort of went back to the drawing board a bit and came up with a statement that we all approved at the staff level, that we wanted to bring back to the board for discussion.
So I would love to hear some feedback on this in terms of, you know, your feel on it, but also, you know, what's next for it. Shall we put it on the website? Shall we, you know, stand behind this as a board? That's, I guess, my question. Where are we?
I appreciate the straightforward first sentence. It's very unequivocally like just putting it straight out there without mincing our words. I appreciate that a lot. And then how through our unique positioning, we can work towards that goal. I think it's very well written.
Thanks, Michelle.
I think it's a good statement. I like the emphasis at the end, particularly on tying it into the work and the mission of IRW. I think that's honestly, I think that's the particular strength of it, because it, any organization could be committed to dismantling racism and oppression, but it makes it less sort of, it just makes it more meaningful. So I like it.
Thanks, Gigi. I agree that statement at the end is sort of our action step, right?
It feels very IRW. I like that sentence too.
I think the sentence above it as well, in terms of supporting our teachers, the educators that have interest in providing programs in school around these issues, that we will provide that support and be responsive, is also a strong action statement. And I think the other thing from the staff point of view was wanting to continue to educate ourselves, and that was important as well.
I also like it for everything, for all the reasons everyone said. About that piece about, and I like that part about commitment to educating ourselves and supporting our partners. I just have a question. Are we educating ourselves on diversity, on matters of racial and ethnic diversity, or are we educating ourselves on issues of racism and oppression and white supremacy? Like what are we educating ourselves on? And if it's diversity, then that it says that, but I'm not sure if that's what that means. And I think that does matter. I liked Debbie's question about like what comes next. And so I think that would be maybe the first piece of where we go. So I'm wondering what people think about that, or maybe if that came up with the staff, if the staff feels like that's what we want to educate ourselves on.
Yeah, I would plus that up. That's what I was trying to put into words too, that educating yourselves on diversity is one particular, and I would argue maybe not the harder part, but rather, and I don't know how specifically we want to get here, but perhaps the ways in which oppression and systemic oppression and supremacy, I can't write it out loud here, but sort of exacerbate the kinds of challenges that we're trying to address. What the root causes are. That seems like a step beyond. What I really like about the inclusion of through our book lists, through selection of authors, introducing diversity and inclusion, and I think that's right to be broader than just racial and ethnic. So I think when you zero in on racial and ethnic diversity very specifically, it hits me. It's the only part of this that hits me a little bit strangely, that would be the specific thing that you're educating yourself on. I agree though with all the positive comments. It feels IRW to me. It feels clear and succinct, and like it's pulling out these separate strands of access to opportunity, self-education, and then specific connection to the work. And I like that last piece around the ultimate goal kind of being to help children appreciate the complexity and interconnectedness of people throughout the world, which really is, the ultimate goal, it seems to me.
Go ahead, Allison.
I'm wondering if maybe because that first sentence is so strong, that if you just say, we will continue to educate ourselves on these matters, because we've talked about dismantling racism and oppression, and then we talk about race, ethnicity, or economic class. So I think if you just say these matters, it kind of gets it all in there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do we feel about that, everybody?
I think that is a a very good change.
Mm-hmm. Good. Thank you. And so, you know, my original question was, what's next? And Jan, I guess you could help us with this, but whether or not you guys talked about what's next as a group, and then also, is there a place for it on our website?
Oh, absolutely. We can put it on the website.
Okay.
And, you know, certainly through the book lists and other things that we're doing, there's, you know, going to be evidence of our position. I mean, I will speak to it, even our current book list, which will be published shortly,
Okay.
very much speaks to this interest and commitment.
Okay.
So yeah, it can go on the website. And I think as we do different, bring different groups together, like when Allison is working with her site coordinators, for example, this might be something that we talk about or that we put, bring some light to in terms of our position. Beyond that, we didn't talk about it in the staff meeting when we were more concerned with, you know, working with a statement.
Sure. Well, I think that's a great start. So, you know,
Would
Do
it be
we-
possible to,
I was going to say, do you want to have a motion to approve this with the changes that have been? I
yeah,
didn't mean to cut you off, Jen, if you had something else you wanted to.
I was just gonna say, I wonder if you could note in the book list that those books are especially relevant. I mean, just so I know that I would choose to read those books right now first before other books. And I don't know, I think other people might feel that way too if we made a symbol next to those books.
nice idea, Jen. Little
I think
extra.
it might be too late this time around, just because it's already with we can check, because it's with the designer at this point, but we can check to see.
It was just an idea, yeah.
Yeah, good one.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see if we can have a motion to, with that change that Allison recommended, have a motion to accept this DEI statement.
So moved.
Second,
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think that was everybody, Jen.
Okay.
And any discussion? All right, so approved. That's excellent. Thank you for all your work. Thanks for making that come to life. Much appreciated.
I wasn't sure. Sorry. I wasn't sure if we were gonna keep talking about next steps. I'm so sorry. Sometimes the order of operations is confusing. I understood Jan to be saying, let's approve the
statement.
the statement before we talk more about next steps. So I was holding off. I have another idea, but
Terrific. Let's hear it.
sorry, this is so strange.
Oh, go for it.
What was my idea? I'm thinking about IRW's like bridge role between like our donors who obviously are really passionate about supporting literacy in communities that don't always have access, to the same experiences and like resources that maybe the communities that the donors come from or live in. So in light of that, so sorry. In light of that, like with this specific piece, I'm wondering about like, is there a way to prioritize books on the, like, I don't know what happens with the book list. My understanding is that it's like a recommendation, like it's kind of like a public recommendation about books that are kind of out right now and they've been reviewed, they're kind of vetted by our organization. So like, is there a way we could like make a donation of some of those books to all the schools we work with separate from programming, right? Like not to add to the programming plate, because there's obviously a lot going on there and you plan your programs well in advance, but just as like as a way of signaling this commitment, like, and acting as a bridge for those resources, I thought that's like relatively low hanging fruit. But I don't know how those kinds of decisions get made. Maybe that's more of a programmatic thing than a board thing.
So just to capture that, Rachel, what you're suggesting, let me see if I have it. So if we were to asterisk some of our books on our next book list, maybe not this winter one that's coming because it's already in production, but having this in mind for the next book list, if we asterisk some books that would fall under clear diversity, inclusiveness, equity, then what you're suggesting is we put a small library of books together with some of our partner schools to see if they are interested in having these books in their own libraries.
Exactly. Or even like, it doesn't even have to be for the next one. Even if we don't mark them on the book list, just like as a token of this commitment, we're gonna marshal these resources that we have been able to compile, right? Like the resources of like being able to find the books and write them up and vet them, and pass them along. And I could see that as like, I think the piece around, like everybody is talking about this stuff, right? And to the point where we're getting some really reactionary stuff from the federal government around like talking about privilege, talking about white supremacy is like considered unpatriotic, right? Like that's the language that like the education department is using, and federal organizations. And so while some organizations are working hard against that tide, this is the backlash that we're facing. So it's like both symbolic, I think, to like distribute these books, but also I think it would make a tangible difference in actually, it would be like a very visible way to what's that line, the last line, like open up the world, right? Show the activity, not asking teachers to do a program, right? Host like those are relatively high level asks that involve a lot of planning and programmatic stuff, but like what teacher would say no to books, right? Like what library would say no, thank you, we don't want these books. And like what donors might feel is like, this is a really tangible way I can support this movement, both this movement and the mission of this organization that I believe in.
Okay.
I don't want to get too bogged down in it if this is not the place for that
I just want to ask Jan where we stand, I guess, financially in terms of, because my understanding, Jan, is that we don't technically purchase those books. It's a book list that others go out and purchase. I don't know though.
The only thing we do with that is when, with libraries, for example, we have a relationship with the local libraries here on MDI that we have them review their collection and see if they have those books. And then if they don't, then we promote or we buy some of them and give them to the libraries if they will promote the book list and promote those titles. So we have displays that are often at Jessup and Southwest Harbor, Northeast Harbor, etc., that focus on the book list and promote them. And Allison, you had your hand, I think, up there. You want to comment? Otherwise, we do distribute the book list throughout all the libraries and with our partner schools. But go ahead.
So I just wanted to draw your attention to something that happened this past spring with books that we received as a donation from Melissa Sweet, who sits on the Ezra Jack Keats committee for that award. So she gets books from publishers and they are mostly diverse authors and content. It was about 230 books, I believe. And we sorted through those and delivered those to our partner schools in Washington County. And I just got an email from her yesterday and she wants to do that again. Oh. So we're kind of doing exactly what you're proposing, just, with a author donor. But so we're getting there is what I'm trying to say. Some of that is actually happening. And so of course I said yes when she asked if we would do that again. I just thought you'd like to know that.
Thanks for sharing that.
And the libraries really do look for this book list and do promote it. So that's another place. But with review of collections, we also know where some of those that we're recommending, aren't available. So again, making sure that they are accessible for people that want to read them through the library. A good suggestion. I've written it down, and I think it's something we can continue to talk about. And see as we're promoting the list, whether there are some opportunities that we can take advantage of.
Excellent idea, Rachel. Thank you. Glad we're already doing it. Ah. Anything else on the DEI statement? Rachel, do you have more ideas? Okay. All right, the finance report. I would be happy to put things up for you if you'd like as we go along. Just let me know.
I think that would be helpful. Allison, would you concur?
I sure do.
And what would you like to start
I
with?
sure do. Let's start with the P&L. Does that sound right to you, Jan?
Sure.
I'm just going to get mine up separately here in case I need to scroll.
Okay.
Sorry, just one moment. And I'm sorry, I have a dog who's not very decisive about where she wants to be. Just one moment. Okay. Okay. So starting with the profit and loss, and I think, just as sort of a headline, and I'll invite Jan or Deborah, of course, to interrupt me anytime here. I think that the headline is that through this whole year, we've just seen Jan and the staff keep expenses very much in line, considering the kind of rainy day year that this has been, the kind of thing that you don't plan for. And so I think, what you'll see throughout here is really careful stewardship of these resources, as well as some numbers that may look a little bit alarming in terms of contributions, but are explainable by difference in timing of when some of the major gifts are coming in the year, later in the year this year than they had in the past. So maybe starting with the contributions gap is sort of the big thing that you might notice here, from 130 down to about 63. We do believe that we're on track to make that goal, given the commitments that we have. Jan, is that right? With a level of confidence?
Yes.
So we can talk a little more specifically about that, but that's not a gap that we're concerned about, given commitments that we know to be coming through towards the end of the year. So of course, much of our contributions do typically come in at the end of the year, but a little more so this year than it has in the past. Shifting down, I think you can see expenses are very much in line this year. You can see kind of a little uptick in wages and health insurance that was anticipated. So, nothing much here that is out of whack, fortunately, for the year. So just a little bit of an uptick. Obviously, program expense is down dramatically, for obvious reasons. So I think there's that offset some of the gap in contributions that we see, even though we don't think that's a problem toward the end of the year. So expenses, significantly down from last year. And we expect that net operating income to be, largely offset by the end of the year. So anything anyone wants to lift up there? We're going to talk a little more about the office space expenses. I don't think, there's anything major there in terms of cost implications, but just sort of a strategic decision, or anything else that you'd want to highlight, Jan or Deborah, from P&L?
No, just a reminder that this is a comparison of, January to October. So this is showing, that period of time only. And when we get into the budget to actual,
Right.
we're looking a little differently.
Right. So just a comparison of where we are now in the year versus where we were last year. So that money is slower to come in, but we still believe that it will be there. So we can shift to the budget versus actual, which is the revised budget that we did in the spring based on the shifting conditions this year. So again, I mean, where we are in terms of contributions, a lot of it's still to come in, but feeling like we have, continue to have strong support there. We're actually over our budgeted for grants already in the year, which is exciting. And we've still got 40K, I believe, pending between the Sumner and the CF Adams, which, Jan, we think we'll hear on those by the end of the year, or might those go into Q1?
We will hear by the end of the year.
Great. Yeah. So, I mean, chance to be quite significantly over what we projected there, which is great. The money market number is really healthy. And that's, well, I'm shifting down to the balance sheet now. So I don't think there's much else here that I looked up as a surprise. Obviously, under where we had budgeted to be for the year, but, careful stewardship here and not a lot of changes. If you look over to that right-hand column in terms of where we are versus the actual, there's, a handful of low numbers that are a tick over, but for the most part, it's very well in line. Anybody want to ask anything about any of those individual line items or any overall concerns? Great. So should we peek at the balance sheet? Can see that money market fund, basically cash on hand is still very healthy going into this part of the year, and especially given circumstances, looks really strong. So total assets only, down a bit from last year and still super healthy. So we haven't really had to dip into that a lot. And, given the strengths of projections for contributions and grants, feeling like we're in a strong position. And I think, we'll be informed by what Allison is going to share in terms of how programming will look different in the fall and spring, and perhaps to some degree beyond. So just interested to hear more about that and what those implications might be.
Two things to add in terms of the balance sheet is that we haven't received the $5,000 from the Library of Congress yet. They've been attempting, but we've had some difficulty with the wire transfer. The other thing is that we did get a statement from Maine Community Foundation, and it shows that in the third quarter, we had increase in our long-term asset, or long-term restricted investment there. It went from the 51,952, that was an increase of $3,191. So, we have some movement that's not reflected on the balance sheet that is an increase in our assets. So very positive, and we're keeping the liabilities very low, as you can also see.
That's for sure. That's great. So that total assets number is a shade over 250, even better.
Yeah, approaching 260.
It's a very good story. Yeah, very good story, and very, we can, when we're ready, shift over to talking about grants. I mean, it just seems like a very opportunity-rich environment in grants, and a really strong success rate. And I think the diversity of kind of, things that these grants are supporting is just interesting to note, from opportunities for general operations to, the website redo, WordCraft, in addition to programming. That's just a really promising trend. So I think that's all I've got to share unless there are questions and want to talk more about fundraising generally, Jan?
Yes, can you put up the dashboard?
The dashboard, yeah, I think it's up at the top, Deborah.
Up at the top.
Oh, no, sorry. You're not looking at the whole agenda piece.
I just need to go off screen to get that.
So if you-
because
Well, I can begin, talking a little bit about the grant side. And the dashboard would be helpful if you find it, Deborah, to put up there because it gives the numbers and allows for you to see what income we have in different categories for the 2020 budget, and then looking over to, what remains, and then what's outstanding, what's pending. And I wanted to say a little bit about that, and also a little bit
You want
about
me to,
individual.
you want me to share my screen?
Sure, if you can.
Sure.
Okay, so if you look at the dashboard at the top, if you can make it a little bit larger, you'll see that we have way over on the right-hand side in the grants column, that 40,000 that Allison was referring to earlier. That has come as a request, actually an invitation from the CF Adams and the Sumner Scholarship Endowment Foundation to apply for a grant again this year. And we have won a grant for $15,000 that is before the Sumner trustees at the moment, which includes doing some book groups for the spring programming, allows for author fees, book fees, and obviously other related staff fees that are directed at developing the programs and implementing the programs, as well as evaluation. So that has been a long-standing relationship we've had with that particular foundation, and we're hoping that they'll continue to support us, for spring 2020. The other is from the CF Adams Charitable Trust, and this came from a conversation that we had with one of their advisors and then one of the trustees. One of the areas that we've identified to them that we wanted to improve was our website. Given where we are with all that's happening with distance learning, ways in which we could enhance our visibility, communicate with the various populations that we have, whether it be our site coordinators, our teachers, doing programs from our website, etc. We felt that we wanted to upgrade the infrastructure, the capacity of the website or the capability of it to be able to use more video, to do more interfacing with platforms that we use in programmings, and also to have the opportunity to register people, invite them into programs that we might sponsor through our website that are IRW, with our authors or with ourselves, or now with our star presenter on the All Book Approach, which is Allison Johnson, to do with grandparents or parents or whoever. So we put in a request after talking with them for $25,000. And we will hear about that by the end of the year. So that constitutes that 40,000. In addition, in the conversation with the trustees, they asked if we would submit in January, February, a 3-year multi-year proposal for building out our organization. And I'll speak a little bit to this when we get into the strategic plan later in the agenda, because the strategic plan, when we look at, I think it's goal number 3, it has an awful lot of programming that is involved in that particular goal, and ways in which we will begin to utilize or to put into action those strategies within this 3-year proposal for the CF Adams. They'd like to get our take on what's happening in the educational landscape as well, and then how are we remaining nimble and adaptive to be able to move our organization forward, and also to continue with a number of the programs we've already started, which they've invested in, and they're very interested in seeing them continue. So with that, if we have an active 3-year grant, of course, that gives us confidence to plan, right? And to have really a roadmap to the future, if you will, as we consider to continue to build out the strategic plan, but look at ways in which we may be adapting our programming over time, and responding obviously to the environment that we're in. So we have, we're very optimistic about that. We haven't talked any numbers, but we think it's going to be a little bit like the Partridge Foundation grant that we enjoyed for 3 years. And we're very hopeful that it will come to fruition. But right now our focus is on the 40,000, which we hope we'll have by the end of the year. And of course that will put us over our grant goal for 2020 in good stead. On the individual side, we have sent out our fall appeal, and we're already getting responses in. And we've had yesterday, I had a very long conversation with one of our donors and who appreciated the annual report, who really appreciated and celebrated the idea of us being recognized by the Library of Congress, and indicated that we could count on them for their goal of last year, but they were going to do more for us this year. So we may see some surprises along the way. And as Allison said, we were confident that for those folks that we have heard from, that we can rely on them, as we add it up, we think we'll meet our goal. The tricky part on the development side, and certainly on the operations side, is figuring out what 2021 needs to look like. And that gets into the question of office space and some of the expenses that we're now carrying. Remember, the staff has been working at home since mid-March, and Allison now comes in 1 day a week. You know, we see Bev occasionally. Lisa is not here, and of course, you know, Taylor will be on medical leave for several weeks, will not be back until January. So the office space is used daily by me. We also have pursued what options there might be in the community for a move. And we've talked to other nonprofits about what they're doing and what the situation might be. Allison, did you want to?
I just wanted to make sure there weren't any questions on the dashboard before we shift over to talking about office. I mean, and just to say, it's an amazing story, and I just don't want to lose the chance to just say amazing to have another multi-year opportunity, and just so much hard work and success in a really tough year. So thank you, Jan, and everyone on the team who made that happen. And I'm glad, I agree that the Library of Congress might give us a little, you know, boost towards the end of the year, which is great. So I'll can take this off the screen unless anyone has any questions. Great, carry on.
Thanks.
Okay, so office space, I'll tell the story. Not a lot of stock around. We've talked with our landlord about reducing the size of this, our need in this building. We also have another person that shares the building with us, which you may not be aware of. He rents an office. He has indicated he's retiring as of January 1st. So the question was, do they rent that particular office space? Are we interested in that office space? And of course, the answer there is no. But what does it mean for us in this particular location? We have the lease. The lease is able to be, we have a commitment from the landlord for 1 more year only. And then they want to renovate this building into a rental space. So we only have an option for a year here. As I've investigated options within the community or within the area of MDI, There's a number of second floor spaces that are smaller, or our space that we once had up in Town Hill would be available that was very cold and we outgrew it, which is why we're here with all of our books. And as we grew with our numbers of schools and programs and just needing a bigger platform area for making our programs work. And we also wanted to be more central in terms of one of the communities that we serve and closer to the ferry terminal on in Bass Harbor, et cetera. A lot of reasons for us to move. As we've looked at the options, we've reached out to Charles Butt, who owns Astaku Connections, which Jen knows very well, having been in that building. And he has indicated he will make a decision about our request and others in the spring, but not before that. So what I'm hearing from other nonprofits who are kind of in a settling kind of situation, trying to figure out what this environment means for office space and office needs. Many are holding and for another year, recognizing that change is happening, but it's happening, you know, kind of in waves, and businesses are making decisions about whether they will continue. So there's a feeling there may be more housing stock in a year from now than what we're seeing right now, or even in the spring and the summer from what we're seeing right now. So the question is, how do we move forward with regard to 2021? If we say no to this lease, then we're kind of out. We'll have to probably go into two different locations, one on a second floor, one on a first floor. A difficult situation for a year, and then begin to think about a longer term commitment, or we stay here for another year and we in essence begin that process of thinking longer term and keeping an eye on the market and beginning to you know, discuss where we might be after this year when we have to move out of this location by mandate of the landlord at the end of 2021. Does everybody kind of get the chronology and the, okay. Questions about anything at this point of what I've reported? We do pay, if somebody, if we decide to stay here, they would rent out the other office or try to. And we pay for the rent or the heat, I'm sorry, the heat and the electricity in the building. And we've already talked with the landlord about how we would negotiate that to get a kick in from that renter who comes in to the space to assist with that. Ultimately, we have received with the renter we have in there now, $1,200 towards that heat and electricity and all of the different services that are here that IRW is picking up the expense for. So we don't want to lose that. If they can't rent the space, that will be something we'll have to bear. If they do rent the space, then we'll be at status quo for another year. So questions, I guess, comments, your thoughts?
Jan, when you say a year, is the lease January to December?
Yes.
Okay.
Do people like working at home mostly?
Yes, I would say they do. You know, somebody has to pick up the mail, be here to receive the books. So, you know, I come to the office and of course I'm closest. And, you know, I enjoy working in the office. So that's not an issue for me. But I do think that everyone has found that they can operate well. Of course, we lose, you know, I'm going to speak a little bit old fashioned in this regard. You know, I like the sense of team and the sense of, you know, the spontaneity of innovation that comes from being together that we just don't have in the same way. So communication is something that we try hard to keep up, but in good quality. But we are decentralized. And what I don't want to happen is that we become independent contractors with specific jobs that everybody does and just comes together to report in occasionally. That's not what IRW is about. So I'm hoping we can get back into a different situation over time.
Has your kind of cadence of meetings changed such that you're trying to create some of that virtually? I mean, are you coming together a couple times a week or less than once a week?
Just once a week. We come together. Allison meets with, Bev and Lisa as well. And then we meet with each other as we need it. And of course, I spend more time with Taylor, given that we're working on the website or we're working on letters or, various proposals.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who's only worked entirely virtually for 12 years, and I know this year, just given the mental health strain on everybody and our clients, we've dramatically increased the amount of time that we're spending together. I don't have it to compare to because I haven't worked in person with folks for so long. But I have found that just more time to process things together and reflect, like you have to create that reflection time. So I say that just not, I want to stay with the matter at hand in terms of the office space, but just in the spirit of wanting to be supportive, recognizing that you may not all be together until sometime, won't be until sometime next year. To think about however we can be supportive and helping to, just think about that cadence or that kind of what some of the culture building pieces will do. And I'm sure you all are talking about that yourselves.
So in meeting with our landlord, she's holding off, posting this space for rent. She knows that we're having a discussion today. I've kind of said to her, we won't have perhaps a decision about this for IRW because we are doing some recognizance work on what might pop up. But we'll need to make a decision about it. And particularly when we start working on the budget with the executive committee, some of those decisions that we make about how we're going to move forward and what are those elements that, kind of need to have a place in the budget as we develop it, and those expenses and how they inform what our goals are for income. It will be important to make a decision. So I can keep everybody informed, and we'll continue to look at the, again, the housing stock or the office stock and see what comes about. And if you hear of anything, of an opportunity, somebody suggested to me today that a space is opening up in Bar Harbor. Well, and thinking about a UPS truck on the corner of Cottage Street and, coming and unloading all these pallets of books, I cringe at all of that. So, we also have to find a location that can handle the needs of in and out. And I really don't want to get into a situation of book deliveries and large numbers going to individual homes and things of that nature. So we have to keep it centralized in the office with our information, our archive, and our inventory. We have right now probably over 1,000 books just downstairs, just to give you an idea, plus all the books that we have in our various offices. So it's not a small thing. But I don't want to take up more time on this subject. We have, I know, more to go. So, I'll yield.
And I just want to comment too, Jan, that, it's just not a safe environment for you to be doing this move. Like, I worry about you, your health, your exposure to others. Like, I mean, yeah, like I don't like that idea of you having to shoulder all this and potentially going and meeting with other people and going to all these different spaces. Like, I mean, we want to minimize your risk. So that's my 2 cents. I'd rather we pay a little bit and keep you safe and keep you in that space than worry about, saving a few $1,000s. It's not going to be a major impact on the budget if you find a space that's even half the price. So I don't know. That's my thoughts.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for that report out, Allison and Jan. And we're going to move to Allison Johnson for her amazing overview on where we are with programming. And again, I hope you had a chance to listen to Sophie's video. She is so inspiring. Love her. Follow her on Twitter. She inspires me every single day. If you're not following her on Twitter, you must. She is doing, right now, I think she's up to number 15, her reasons of things to look forward to, which crack me up every single day. She's great. All right, Allison, you're up.
Okay, thank you. I gotta kind of try and make this quick because we're gonna run out of time. So fall programs, you've all seen hopefully Sophie's video, and I don't know if you want to take time to share any reactions now, or if in the essence of time you want to type it into the chat. I believe while you're recording this, any of that chat will get saved if it's to everyone. So maybe that's a good way to go about this.
Good idea. Thanks.
And it is a really wonderful video. She did a bang up job of putting it together. She's so professional and wonderful. She's just amazing. Let's see, get to my next. So of course that was promoting the, Ivy and Bean, No News is Good News book program that we have going on in these 4 schools right now: Beals, DRL, Stonington, Millbridge, and Woodland, with 3rd and 4th graders. It's 4 schools, but there are actually 6, 7 classes going on, maybe 8 actually. And so they are kicking that off with that video. Then they will be doing work based on packets that we have put together for them. And we designed these packets that have lots of resources. You can look on our website for some of them. And these packets were designed so that they could be in the classroom if the teachers are in the classroom, and the kids would have their own packets, because they all have to have their own packets the way of COVID right now. But also so they could take those packets home should they need to transition home, or if they were working virtually. So with this program, along with that video, there will be a mid-session check-in. It's about 6 weeks total that they're doing this. So the check-in will happen a couple weeks in with Sophie. Each class will get a 15-minute Zoom session with Sophie, just to say, where are you? How's it going? Do you have any questions? Do you want to share anything? And then when we get to the end, they get another pre-recorded video from Sophie with the special surprise of Annie Barrows joining Sophie in that video. The schools do not know that this is happening. And we will have all the newspapers that they've created by that point and have scanned them and sent them to Sophie and Annie so they can respond in the video directly to these kids in the classes. And then there will be a live Q&A if we can pull that off with all of the classes. That's going to be a challenge. I'll say that right now. Having been through some of these Zoom sessions with the schools, that's going to be tricky, but we'll see what we can do. Any questions on that? If you want to put them in the chat, or if you're really eager, just pipe up. So backing up a bit to think about the landscape of what we've been dealing with this fall, you can see here is a list of what we know for what's happening in these schools. And there are really different challenges across the board. What we have learned and what we are doing our best to do as an organization is the schools really need to have supports from us. So we're in this partnership with these great relationships with these schools, and they need a lot of support from us right now. They need understanding because everything is so difficult and challenging. And so when we're having conversations, they really want to share what they're going through and talk things through, and that it's very helpful for them to have someone who understands what they're going through, and that we can encourage them with our conversations and then be responsive in our programming. So what we designed going into this, having no idea what it was going to look like, we are shifting constantly, responding to what they are discovering as they get settled into their school year, because I mean they're like not even 8 weeks in at this point. Jonesport Beals has one bus driver right now for 3 schools, one bus driver. Okay, so that is a huge challenge. They don't have sports. Those are huge sports communities. They couldn't do their fall sports because of that. Charlotte dismisses at 12:30 every day, and the teachers are completely exhausted at 12:30. Deer Stonington seems to be rocking it. They had a very solid planning team over the summer with great leadership, and last I heard they were doing pretty well. So you can see things go up and down. Edmonds did not opt into any of our programs. They seem to be, struggling to keep things going in their school. They're very focused internally, which is great. They do have a strong community. But we have heard from, I did some live story hours on Facebook, and the teacher for the first grade, I'm sorry, has reached out. She is wanting to do more of that. So I'm kind of working now individually because the live sessions with scheduling and technology weren't going all that well. Ella Lewis School is doing a hybrid of 2 days on, 2 days off, with the Wednesday in between of online stuff, which all of RSU 24 is doing, and some other schools are doing as well. Jonesport, I think the hybrid is challenging. Keeping the kids engaged is difficult, but they are involved in our WordCraft program, and that's going pretty strong. Pembroke didn't want to go hybrid this year because they felt it was going to be too much for their teachers, but they did because they had 10 students out and just did not want to leave them out. But they're facing like a kindergarten classroom that has 3 students, 1 in person, 2 at home. Really, really difficult to make that work. But they have been fantastic with the whole book approach. Their principal, Debbie, is super, super committed to that program and the pedagogy involved with VTS, and I'll get into that a little bit more later. Princeton, we've had a challenge with, haven't heard a whole lot from them. They backed out of, they didn't want to participate with fall programs, felt it was too much, had to back out of WordCraft. So I think they're struggling. And this is, we knew this was going to happen. So the door, of course, is still open to all these schools, and we are following up and trying to re-engage where we can. Whiting is settling in. They are participating with the Newbury Book Club and are just about ready to meet with Gary Schmidt. This will happen next week. Very excited about that. Scott, the teaching principal for 5th through 8th grade, said that the kids loved Lizzie Bright, and it was probably the best overall book they've ever done. So very positive comments from there. Woodland, we've got doing the Ivy and Bean program, and I'm connecting with Marcia on Monday, but it has taken them a bit of time to settle in as well. MDI, I don't know exactly how the hybrid is working. Rachel could probably speak more to that. I do know that we have had several successful Zoom sessions for the 7th grade read so far last week and the week before, and that's been great. Very little word from Vinyl Haven, North Haven, and Islesboro. So more connections need to be made there. The Outer Islands, we have a new, well, not new, but re-energized connection with them, thanks to working with the Island Institute through Community Learning for Me, and also connecting with Robin Chernow, who is their education outreach person, and she's been wonderful connecting us. So they have been doing the WordCraft program, and the kids are really, really doing great. Okay, I feel like I'm going a mile a minute here, but I'm trying to pack it all in because I know we're on a time schedule. So for the whole book approach and getting the right start, we have these 4 schools. Charlotte, of course, doing their own thing, going all grades. And it's been a challenge with getting started for various reasons, you know, as you've heard, the landscape there with what is happening. However, now that we're starting to settle in, we are hearing what the challenges are. So I've been checking in with the teachers and I'm discovering that really that's what needs to happen is a Zoom check-in every couple of weeks with me talking through getting the feedback instead of them filling out surveys and gathering our data that way. And then it's also an opportunity for me to use the skills I'm learning in the visual thinking practicum that I am currently in and share those skills with them. So we've just kind of come to a new way of looking at how that's going to play out. But you know, the kids are very excited about the books and they want to take them out, and then the kids have to know that the books have to go to quarantine in between kids taking them out. So lots of things to think about with COVID. One school, Lubac, I was talking to Chris at Lubac, and she was like, just trying to get to the point where she could introduce this. She said, you know, she's teaching kindergarten. So she's looking at her little kids and it's the mask has slipped off Joey. And it's like, Joey, you got to pull your mask back up. And then she goes over to help Joey pull his mask back on. Then she has to go wash her hands. And then the next kid's mask falls out. And then it's her break and she has to go to the bathroom. And she's like, I'm walking out into the hall and I've forgotten to put my mask on. And so it's just a lot for these teachers to think about what is happening in their classroom, in their day-to-day routines. It's a completely new shift here. So we did send supporting materials along with bags of books to all of these schools and resources to go along with the training that was provided. And so they're getting there, it would be my message with this program. As I've noted, it's just a matter of being responsive and coaching them and supporting them and letting them know that, you know, we understand things are slow and we'll get there with you. WordCraft is happening in Beals, Jonesport, Whiting, and the Outer Islands. And you can see the authors that we are working with. We're able to go on to the program and see the responses to the writing. And it has been good. They're starting at different, you know, it's supposed to be all starting at the same time. That went out the window with different start times for schools. So we have them happening a little bit out of sync, but the writing is happening, and the authors have been very responsive, and we are working our way through that. You know, we've had to deal with things like Beals had to get a new mic because Elizabeth couldn't hear. And Jan and I have talked about looking at the WordCraft program in different ways and breaking off elements and how we might utilize this program in the future. So lots to consider there. We have the Newbury book groups going with Whiting, Beatrice Rafferty, Charlotte, and Jonesport. As I said, Gary is meeting with Whiting next week. We had a meeting with Lauren Wolf at Charlotte via Zoom last week. Terrific. She's just amazing. The kids loved it. They had great questions. And then I will be scheduling the others as they tell us they're ready. I was very excited that Beatrice Rafferty has 2 classrooms participating in programs this year because they have lots of challenges. So at Beatrice Rafferty, those the teachers are in the classroom and all the kids are at home. So that's like a really different situation. But that's the way it is full time. But they are working through their books and really enjoying it. Had some great questions from the kids at Charlotte. Like, I don't know how many of you read that book, Wolf Hollow, but why did Toby stop carrying the guns? And she asked back, what do you think? Which Lauren is fantastic at doing. And the kid's response was, I think he feels like he is in debt for all the souls he killed in the war. And I was just like blown away by that. Like, this is, I mean, 5th through 8th grade. That was, wow. Also, let's see, we are doing the 7th grade read like I mentioned. So here is an image from yesterday's session with one of the classes. We're doing Call Me American with Abdi. And of course, we can't be all together at Camp Beechcliff like we normally are. So we are doing Zooms with each school and sometimes with each class. That's it, because we had one Zoom that had 3 classrooms on the same Zoom. And then this one yesterday, we got on, we tried to do the Zoom. The teacher, this is the virtual kids. And so the teacher realized that the kids didn't have Zoom and they couldn't download it. So at the last second, we had to switch to like Google Meet, and we're on cell phones going back and forth. And Julie is like, Allison, I can't get into the Zoom. I'm like, I know, neither can I, but we worked it out and they had a great conversation. And so this program is really helping us to meet our intentions with that statement that we talked about at the beginning of the meeting, okay? Because Abdi's story is absolutely incredible. And these kids are all reading this book about, an immigrant's, refugees' journey. One of the most amazing stories I've ever heard of coming to the United States and then getting here and realizing that it's not all rosy here when it comes to racism and being a Black man living in America. But he's really wonderful with the kids. He's gracious and knows how to get these messages across in a very nuanced way. I've been super impressed. And I also wanted to mention that I did participate in the Island Teachers Conference. They asked me if I would do the whole book approach with a lens of equity. And of course, using VTS, you are able to kind of disrupt conversations and create a equitable learning space. Of course, I had to preface the whole presentation with, I do not feel like I am a qualified person to do any kind of training on those issues, but that the process and the pedagogy works in that way. So, but I think I had maybe 15 or so people in that, and it was really wonderful. Let's see, so I did VTS also the other night with Community Learning for Me. We had a conversation on reimagining education. And so we used this image to talk about, to kick us off on that conversation. And so I just thought it was kind of amazing that this image fits so well into a conversation about education. And guess what? This is pre-COVID. This image was done pre-COVID. Isn't that something? So it was really interesting. People liked it. And Are you ready to see something really sweet? There she is. There's Charlotte. Isn't she just adorable? And that's it from me. Did I do quick enough?
Well, one thing I thought you might speak to, Allison, just as very briefly, is the spring. The question of the third bullet there on outlook for spring, some of the ideas that we've kicked around, just in a nutshell.
Okay, so we looked at what we had in spring for this past year that got really shut down rather rapidly. And we have a lot of those books on hand because we had already ordered them and we're ready to go. So we are doing our best to figure out ways to redo those programs in a virtual way so that we can take advantage of the resources we have on hand. And I've connected with almost all of the authors, and pretty much everyone is on board to do something. And so now it's a matter of working with the schools and figuring out how we might, turn this into a virtual thing. We also are looking at, can we continue the WordCraft program? And if so, in what schools and how? And can we get some more schools to sign on to the whole book approach? Because the more we can get that idea and that program into the schools we're working at those younger levels and think about building through, the better we'll be. And we are thinking of virtual, because that's what it's looking like at this point. Although maybe in warmer weather, there are some hybrid things that we could consider. So we're keeping our options open and responsive. And do you want me to say, is there anything else I'm missing, Jan?
No, we mentioned the book groups, and we've had good success with these Newbury book groups that are integrated into the curriculum. So
Yeah.
we are looking at doing more of that, in the spring.
Yeah, so one of the things was the after-school book group that we had planned that was really fun with Gary's book and Dave Anderson's book. It was just too challenging for the after school. The schools were not, they weren't even back, and it was just too early to try and figure that piece out. So we're looking at doing book groups with them, with those books in the spring to kind of carry that work forward too. And so and we may partner with an after school program once they've settled and we have a better idea of what they're doing, but we're also looking at in-class options for that too.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
Can I tell a nice story really fast? My friend Catherine, who I'm hoping to get more involved with IRW, was at the Community Learning for Me meeting with you the other day, Allison, and she was so impressed, and she really wants to get involved with IRW now. So that was
Great.
nice of her. Yeah.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Great.
I
Good.
just wanted to pause and thank Allison for all her hard work and just let you know how grateful I am for it, because you're talking about all the educators that have had to make different choices this year, but so have we as an organization. But I just really am grateful for all of the flexibility, is not even, it's an understatement, that you've taken on so that the program can continue as best as we can and as full capacity as the school will allow. So thank you so much. All right. So where are we on the agenda? We need to, we're going to dabble a little bit on the strategic plan, Jan, an update, and then executive session. And I know Gigi is going to be leaving us. So anything, Gigi, before you go?
No, and I'm really sorry to have to leave a
okay.
few minutes early, but I will catch up on what I've missed. And thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I'll jump in just a little bit on the strategic plan. We've touched on a number of things already, and particularly Allison in her presentation in her last comments about the whole book approach and WordCraft. if you look at goal 3, so much of it centers around how we're going to integrate those programs more fully in our partner schools. And we are thinking about that, and certainly looking also at the ways in which we can perhaps recalibrate the offering of particularly the WordCraft program to think about a larger audience, or to make it more accessible to schools in a more simplified way. So there's a number of things that are afoot, both with the whole book approach, which we really would like to begin to get all of our partner schools having that as a baseline and being able to follow and build on that over time. You heard Allison talk a little bit about VTS, and we've sponsored her to be in a training program. She's in the second part of that. And the visual thinking strategies is becoming very quickly an approach that we're using consistently, whether it's looking at how we introduce a book, to a classroom, thinking about that cover and what it might say or suggest, what we're observing, etc. But getting kids to begin to sharpen their skills using that particular strategy. And we find it very powerful. We also want to do more in the area of professional development, which is also under that goal number 3, is the professional development, the WordCraft, the keeping responsive in our programming, looking at ways we can establish more formal partnerships with our schools as we move forward, and also looking at what we might do with a whole book approach. So when we think about going back to that CF Adams opportunity over 3 years, it's my intention to incorporate those build outs into that particular plan. So as we describe year 1, year 2, year 3, it will align itself with those goals and some additional ones that we may have programmatically, but definitely incorporating strategic goal number 3, and then the sustainability and the look at those action plans and strategies, how we will fold that into a proposal for CF Adams. Now, one of the questions that has been raised as we think about sustainability and looking at the organization over time, and I want to pose this to, well, Gigi and Jen as the governance committee, as perhaps something to think about, is developing an advisory board of some kind. And maybe in the committee, when governance meets again, I can write a proposal or at least a paragraph explaining a little bit of why this might be a good idea in terms of looking at the longer range goals of the organization, but looking at the sustainability, looking at how to broaden our pool of being able to identify really resources, whether they're skills that we need for various targeted initiatives, or whether they're donors that we need to continue to develop or broaden our field of donors, how we might use and identify a small group to advise us on various things. It might be past board members, for example, so a way to also identify and hold those folks close to us as we move forward with our work without having them serve directly on the board, for example.
Would this be an ongoing thing, or a finite amount of time?
It could be either, and which is one of the reasons why the governance committee would need to look at this and see how it might be something that can serve the organization and how to structure it in the most beneficial way. So I will be bringing something to Gigi and you, Jen, and we can perhaps have a conversation about it. Other ideas under that goal 3, gets at, again, how we build out the programming and how we begin to look at what we need as we're developing this website and how it begins to change the way that we deliver programs and our audience. Do we have particular programs that we offer to everybody, for example? And then do we have portals that allow individual schools to tap into those programs that are specific for the school? So for when you have a video like the one we have for Sophie, how do you protect that video to be shown to the school that is working with that program and not to the world using our website, but having people come to our website to access that information? Right now, for example, Allison is sending all kinds of emails soliciting information, or Bev is trying to get, our school profiles or whatever. Being able to go into a portal and have that communication be available through that portal, will cut down on some of that, but also bring us more to the forefront for all of those schools in terms of what we are offering and connecting the program they're enjoying, again, with IRW each time they go back to the well, so to speak, to get more information. So it will require some education on our part as to how to use this website. We're hoping for the funding to come from CF Adams. It would be about a $23,000 project, and we're looking at doing it over the next 5 months. We have already done a map. This hasn't been a new project for us. Taylor and Sarah Hewitt, who is our designer, has been looking for a long time to have the opportunity to work on the website. We're with WordPress, and we haven't updated the infrastructure of that or the bones of that in 10 years. And so this would be an opportunity to bring us more to the fore. So we're working on goal 3, focusing on that and beginning to integrate that into our planning proposals as we present them to the CF Adams Charitable Trust. And as you heard from Allison already with WordCraft and getting the right start with our all book approach. And those two things are very important, because what we are seeing is more opportunity to be integrated into the curriculum and of these schools. And also, as Allison said, they are reaching out to us to have assistance, particularly with the professional development. And certainly we have ideas for that. The other thing that I'd like to add, and with regard, I guess, to the sort of strategic planning, is that, this is a live document. And so obviously we're learning about other things that perhaps we need to talk about in the future around the strategic plan. And we made a decision, for example, to not expand IRW, but again, looking at this website and thinking about what we can do as we provide programs that allow for registration, for example, for a program. We are creating a much larger population that is aware of island readers and writers. And certainly through the Library of Congress Prize, that will begin to happen as well. We haven't gotten much detail, quite frankly, on what the next step is with that, but we anticipate that there'll be panel discussions amongst the honorees, and also whether they'll be public, we don't know yet. But there will be some things that will be coming forward that we can promote through the website and through our work, and gets us that visibility and helps us with the sustainability as well as the bridging that we hope to do. So just an update there on goal 3 on the strategic plan.
Well, I think the timing on all of this website development, it just couldn't be more perfect. And I think that with that connection to the Library of Congress, I mean, you never know what doors that's going to open. And so having a very functional, multi-interface website where you can have some things private, easy to share, have some maybe logins or whatever, but also have just a resource gathering place, I think is absolutely fantastic. One of the things when you mentioned, these teachers are just up against so much right now and they're really suffering it's like mental health is a huge issue right now. Just a thought to have maybe a separate book list or some resources for teachers to, like Tina Bugren has a great book, Take Time for You, that's literally geared towards educators, just finding that balance. I mean, I don't know, just a thought to kind of put in a little bit there, because I know we're seeing that in our job too. Like we're meeting with teachers and they're just crying. It's like so sad. So just another level of what we could offer on the website to kind of support educators.
Yeah, good suggestion.
Anybody else? All right, thank you, Jan, for that update. And I think we're going to go to executive session if there's nothing else for today.
I'll sign off.
Thank you, Allison, very much. Good to
Nice
see
to
you.
see you all. Bye.
Thank you so much, Allison.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I don't have an agenda for executive session, so it's open if you would like to share anything. The only thing that I do want to mention is perhaps getting together to buy something or send something to Taylor,
I was
and
just gonna say that.
how we could go about doing that. And I'll need her address, Jan, if we do send her something.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a
I
little,
glanced at her registry and there wasn't much left.
right,
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Jan, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say that, she's pretty well outfitted. I mean, there's, and we had a little shower for her here at the office.
So
What do you have?
I knit owl blankets,
Oh,
and
Oh,
I just happen to have a baby blanket for a girl that I just finished. So I would love to send that to her for all of us.
Oh,
And like the
yay.
owl, because it's, you just think I connect that with reading. So yeah, if you could email us her address or
Yeah,
something, that would be terrific.
yeah, happily,
Thanks, Michelle.
happily.
So Michelle, maybe you and I
The
can.
books that you all got for me were so special, and I thought I try to get books on IndieBound, so I thought I might just send her an IndieBound gift card to just go nuts with books. If anybody wants to coordinate, get in on that, maybe
Yeah.
I'll plan to do it in like a week and set a reminder and just let me know.
An awesome
You can
idea.
add on.
That sounds good. Do you use Venmo, Allison?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me see what my yeah, if you guys want to just I'll throw it in the chat if you want to just Venmo me, or I can PayPal too.
Thank you. That's great.
I'm sticking it here.
Do you all have any questions for me before I sign off and give you some time to talk amongst yourselves?
I just wanted to say I hope we were helpful on the office thing. I feel like that was, it's just tough. So if there's more we can do, let us know. But I feel like you have your steps, and we're just going to have to keep moving forward and learning what we can.
Yeah, thank you for
I
the.
don't know much about real estate on the island.
Yeah,
There's not much I can do.
You know, my neighbor is the CFO for the Friends of Acadia, and you know,
Mhm.
and I can tell you that in talking with him, they've all been thinking about their office space too, and they just feel there isn't any stock to make any kind of change, and so you know, some of it's
Yeah.
letting everything settle, you know, and figure out
Mhm.
other people are making decisions where there's opportunity or not. And I appreciate what you said, Michelle, about running around and finding all this out.
We
you
want to
know.
put you in a bubble, Jan.
I know. So,
Right.
yeah, we just have to see where it all takes us. But a wonderful meeting, and I'm going to leave you now and give you a little bit of time. we're all well here, I will say, and as you can tell, programs are moving ahead, and we'll just take it one day at a time. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Jan.
Thank you, Jan.
Michelle, she just happens to have an owl quilt. What? I love it.
Well, my family is from Owl's Head, so we
Oh.
make these whenever anyone gets
Oh.
married, and my grandmother used to
Oh.
before she passed away, so that's just a family tradition. So I just make these all the time, just in case. And this is just in case.
That's funny.
It's a little loud because this is what I used to use with the kids for making hats. I taught them to knit, and they were like, "We want hot pink." I'm like, "Okay," but I think it'll be
Oh, sweet.
Okay. Anything on your mind? Okay.
I mean, I guess my worry was the move and I'm like, oh my God, the timing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I think that was
I
really
not
good that you said that,
happen. I
Michelle.
mean, I'd rather that not happen, but Jan's gonna do what Jan wants to do. So if all of a sudden she lets us know that, oh, I found this space, it's like, I'm gonna go and assist, I think, physically to make sure that,
Well,
I don't know.
These funds that are rolling in, that are continuing to roll in, are really not just happening, as we all know. She is out
Right.
and about. She is visiting. She is having people over. I know she's being careful, but it's happening.
Oh my God.
She's not sitting home in a bubble.
I know.
So
Yeah, she's probably hanging out with my parents. Oh my God, stay home. You're 87, Dad. Cut it out.
yeah.
Well, especially in the winter. So I'm maybe hopeful she's trying to get it done so that she can stay home. But maybe we want to keep a little eye on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe we can do something nice for the staff as we go into winter, because they're all working hard and isolated. It might just be nice to recognize them.
Good
Yeah.
idea.
It's a good idea.
Well, I hope each one of you is doing okay and well, and despite it all.
Yeah, same. This was a great meeting, though. I mean, I really don't want it to go unrecognized, just that this is going, so well, so to speak, that they've pivoted so well, and they're just seem like such a lifeline for some of these teachers and schools, and through a really hard time. So I'm very grateful.
Yes.
And especially when there's been a pullback of those kind of supports, big time.
Uh-huh.
So
Right.
IRW's done the
I
exact opposite. They're just like all hands
Yeah.
on deck, pushing in, supporting in whatever way. It's just wonderful. So I'm proud of all
Yeah.
the work they've done.
I think it speaks to IRW's reputation, but it also speaks to Allison's personality and ability to connect and stay connected. And really, the teachers are seeing her as a leaning post. They really are. Some of her stories are pretty incredible, what she's hearing.
And I think it's helpful because she lives in that community, and it's a community that's fraught with challenges that you don't see in necessarily all of our communities. And so she's like highly sensitive to that. And I really appreciate that as well. I think they trust her, and it's not necessarily always an area that openly trusts right away. So she's done a great job with that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I'm not going to keep you I think we're good. Thank you, Michelle, for sending that off to Taylor, and thank you, Allison. I'll send you a little coin there so we can make
That
some,
would be great.
you can make some good selections. And Jen, thanks for taking
Say hi to my
notes.
friends.
And Rachel, thank you for all
Yep.
your ideas. I love them.
Hi.
Okay.
Hey guys, we're gonna go play outside.
All right.
I'll plan to send this like a gift card like end of next week maybe.
Okay.
So I'll just keep track of what I get from you guys. Thank you
Excellent.
so much. Everybody
right.
have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
And Deborah, I was just wondering if maybe another thought for Taylor is that maybe some of our authors and illustrators could sign some of their wonderful children's books, because I don't think she gets those.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, like Chris Van Dusen or somebody.
I'm gonna do that.
Wouldn't that be neat?
I
Just
love it,
because
but
like
I'm gonna
she's
do
part
it.
of this organization, but I don't think she gets like signed copies.
I wonder if I can get Allison to do that,
Just a thought. So
because I know Allison is doing all the deliveries as well.
right,
You know?
right.
So I'll poke her a little bit on that.
Okay.
Thanks. And Jen, when you're all set with those notes, if you just want to send them to me, I guess, then I'll get them where they belong.
I'll try to work on them tomorrow. I took a lot of notes on paper, so I'll condense it.
Thanks for doing that, Jen.
Sounds
Yeah.
good. All right, guys, take good
Thanks.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.